Stop. Right now, while you're reading this, somewhere in your life, you're showing weakness. Maybe it's in how you respond when someone disrespects you. Maybe it's in how you react when things don't go your way. Maybe it's in how you handle pressure, stress, or disappointment. You think nobody notices. You think these small moments don't matter. You're wrong. Every second you show weakness, you're painting a target on your back. You're telling predators exactly where to strike. You're teaching people that you're someone who breaks under pressure. And once they see that weakness, they never forget it. Here's what nobody wants to tell you. The world is full of predators. Not necessarily evil people, but people who are constantly scanning for weakness. They're looking for who they can manipulate, who they can take advantage of, who will break when pushed, who will fold when challenged. These people aren't consciously thinking I'm going to prey on the weak. It's more instinctive than that. They're just naturally drawn to vulnerability the way a shark is drawn to blood in the water. And the moment you show weakness, even for a single second, you've just sent out a signal that says I'm vulnerable. Attack here that I'm going to tell you something that will change how you see every interaction for the rest of your life. People are constantly testing you. Every conversation, every challenge, every conflict. They're testing to see if you're strong or weak, if you're solid or if you break, if you're someone to respect or someone to use. And the tests never stop. You don't get to pass once and then relax. Every day, in every interaction, people are evaluating your strength. And the moment you fail one of these tests, the moment you show weakness even briefly, everything changes. People who respected you start questioning you. People who feared you start challenging you. People who left you alone start testing your boundaries. Niccolò Machiavelli observed 500 years ago that the appearance of strength is more important than actual strength. A leader who is strong but appears weak will be challenged constantly. A leader who is weak but appears strong will be left alone. This isn't about fairness or justice. This is about survival. In a world full of people looking for opportunities to advance themselves, weakness is an opportunity. Your weakness is someone else's advantage. Your moment of breaking is their moment of gaining ground. This is why you can never, ever show weakness. Not even for a second. Now I want you to drop this affirmation in the comments. I show strength in every moment. Because what you're about to learn will separate you from the 90% of people who show weakness constantly and then wonder why their lives are full of conflict, manipulation, and disrespect. Let's start with the brutal truth about what happens the moment you show weakness. The first brutal truth is that weakness is like blood in the water. Predators can smell it instantly. You show one moment of vulnerability, one crack in your armor, and suddenly everyone is testing you more aggressively. Let me explain exactly how this works. When you're consistently strong, people develop a mental model of you as someone who doesn't break. They expect strength from you. They anticipate that challenging you won't work. So most people don't even try. Your consistent strength creates a protective barrier. People self-select out of testing you because they assume it won't work. But the moment you show weakness, that mental model shatters. Suddenly people think, wait, maybe they're not as strong as I thought. Maybe I can push them. Maybe they will break if I apply enough pressure. And once that thought enters their mind, they start testing. Small tests at first. A minor boundary violation to see if you'll enforce it. A small disrespect to see if you'll respond. A challenge to see if you'll stand firm. If you pass these small tests, if you show strength despite the momentary weakness they saw, they might back off. But if you fail, if you show weakness again, the testing escalates. Think about what happens in nature. A predator watches a herd of animals looking for the weak one. The one that limps. The one that lags behind. The one that shows vulnerability. Once they identify that weak target, they focus all their attention on it. They don't waste energy on the strong ones. They go after the one they know they can take down. Human social dynamics work exactly the same way. People are constantly scanning for weakness. And the moment they spot it, you become the target. Here's what this looks like in practice. You're in a meeting at work. Someone challenges your idea aggressively. If you respond with confidence, defend your position strongly, and stand your ground, they back off. But if you hesitate, if you look uncertain, if you backtrack or apologize unnecessarily, what happens? They press harder. They sense weakness. And suddenly everyone else in the meeting is emboldened too. Because you've just shown that you can be pushed. You've demonstrated that applying pressure works on you. From that moment forward, everyone treats you differently. Not consciously, but instinctively. They know you're someone who breaks. Or consider personal relationships. Someone disrespects you. If you address it immediately and firmly, establishing that this behavior isn't acceptable, it usually stops. But if you let it slide, if you make excuses for them, if you show that you'll tolerate disrespect to avoid conflict, what happens? The disrespect increases. Not because the person is necessarily trying to hurt you, but because you've demonstrated that disrespecting you has no consequences. You've shown weakness in your boundary enforcement. And once someone knows your boundaries are weak, they naturally expand into that space. The really insidious part is that showing weakness once makes you vulnerable to people who weren't even present when you showed it. Because people talk. Word spreads. Person A sees you show weakness and tells person B. Now person B, who has never interacted with you, already has a mental model of you as someone who breaks under pressure. They approach you differently than they would have if they only knew your strong side. Your reputation for strength or weakness precedes you. And a reputation for weakness is almost impossible to rebuild because everyone is now testing you, making it harder to show consistent strength. Machiavelli wrote extensively about how once a leader is seen as weak, every small faction starts challenging them. Not because they necessarily dislike the leader, but because they smell opportunity. Weakness creates a power vacuum, and nature abhors a vacuum. Someone will always try to fill it. This is why showing weakness is so catastrophic. It's not just about that one moment. It's about how that one moment changes everyone's behavior toward you permanently, unless you can demonstrate overwhelming strength consistently enough to rebuild your reputation. Now I want you to drop this affirmation in the comments. My strength is constant and visible. Because the next truth is going to show you exactly how to identify when you're showing weakness without even realizing it, and why most people broadcast vulnerability constantly without understanding what they're doing. The second brutal truth is that most people show weakness constantly and don't even know it. They think they're being normal, or reasonable, or human. But what they're actually doing is broadcasting vulnerability signals that predators pick up on immediately. Let me show you the subtle ways people show weakness that you might be doing right now without realizing it. First, over-explaining yourself. When someone questions your decision and you launch into a lengthy explanation of your reasoning, trying to get them to understand and approve, you're showing weakness. You're demonstrating that their opinion matters enough to you that you need their validation. Strong people state their decision and move forward. They don't need everyone to understand or agree. Weak people explain and justify because they're uncertain about their own choices. Second, apologizing for things that aren't your fault or that don't warrant apology. Every unnecessary sorry is a weakness signal. It tells people you're uncomfortable with their potential disapproval, that you'll take blame to keep the peace, that you can be made to feel guilty even when you've done nothing wrong. Strong people apologize when they've actually made a meaningful mistake. Weak people apologize reflexively to manage other people's emotions. Third, changing your position when challenged. Someone pushes back on something you said or decided, and you immediately start qualifying it, walking it back, or suggesting maybe you were wrong. This isn't being open-minded. This is being weak-minded. Strong people consider new information, but they don't fold at the first sign of resistance. Weak people change their stance whenever someone applies pressure because they can't tolerate disapproval or conflict. Fifth, talking about your problems and struggles constantly. Everyone has problems. Strong people handle theirs privately or with a very select few trusted people. Weak people broadcast their struggles to anyone who will listen. They think they're being vulnerable and authentic. What they're actually doing is advertising their weak points. Every problem you share is information someone can use against you. Every struggle you mention is a potential leverage point for manipulation. Sixth, asking for permission or approval when you don't need it. Is it okay if I do this? When you're an autonomous adult who doesn't actually need permission. What do you think I should do? When you're capable of making your own decisions. Every time you seek unnecessary approval, you're showing that you don't trust your own judgment. You're demonstrating that you need external validation to feel confident in your choices. This is weakness. Seventh, backing down from conflict too easily. Someone challenges you or your boundaries, and you immediately fold to avoid the discomfort of standing your ground. You tell yourself you're being mature or choosing your battles. But what you're actually doing is showing that applying pressure to you works, that you'll sacrifice your interests to avoid conflict. This teaches people that they can get what they want from you by simply being willing to be more confrontational than you are. Eighth, showing desperation or neediness. Whether it's for approval, for attention, for help, or for anything else, neediness is a massive weakness signal. It tells people you're operating from scarcity, that you don't have enough of whatever you're desperate for. This makes you easy to manipulate because people know they can control your behavior by offering or withholding whatever you're desperate for. Strong people operate from abundance. They want things but don't need them desperately. Ninth, complaining constantly. About your circumstances, about other people, about how hard things are. Complaining is a weakness signal because it demonstrates that you feel powerless to change your situation. Strong people either change what they don't like or accept what they can't change without complaint. Weak people complain endlessly because they feel victimized by their circumstances. 10th, not following through on your stated boundaries or consequences. You say you won't tolerate something, but then you tolerate it. You threaten consequences, but never enforce them. You set boundaries, but let people violate them repeatedly. This is perhaps the most damaging form of weakness because you're explicitly demonstrating that your words mean nothing, that you don't respect yourself enough to protect your own boundaries. If you don't respect your boundaries, nobody else will either. Now drop this affirmation in the comments. I eliminate all weakness signals. Because the next truth reveals what actually happens in the minds of predators when they spot weakness, and why showing weakness even once can mark you as a target forever. The third brutal truth is that predators never forget weakness. Once they've seen you break, once they've identified you as someone who shows weakness, they file that information away permanently. And they will test that weakness again and again, looking for opportunities to exploit it. Let me explain exactly how predators think and operate, so you understand what you're dealing with. First, understand that predators aren't necessarily bad people in the conventional sense. Many of them are just opportunistic. They're people who have learned that the world rewards those who take advantage of opportunities. And weakness is an opportunity. They didn't wake up deciding to be predators. They just learned, probably through experience, that certain behaviors get them what they want. And one of the most effective behaviors is identifying and exploiting weakness in others. Here's how it works in their mind. They interact with you, and at some point, you show weakness. Maybe you back down from a conflict. Maybe you apologize when you did nothing wrong. Maybe you agree to something you didn't want to do because you couldn't say no. In that moment, their brain files away information. This person has weak boundaries, or this person can be pressured, or this person prioritizes being liked over being respected. This information gets stored in their mental model of who you are. Later, when they need something or want something, they review their mental catalog of people. Who can I get to do this? Who will say yes? Who won't push back? And your name comes up because you're in their mental category of people who show weakness. So they come to you. And because you showed weakness before, they approach you more aggressively than they would approach someone they perceive as strong. They don't waste time with pleasantries or fair requests. They go straight to pressure, manipulation, or demands because they already know it works on you. If you give in again, if you show weakness again, you move further into their target category. Now you're not just someone who might be weak. You're someone who is definitely weak. Someone they can rely on to fold under pressure. And they start coming to you more frequently. The requests get bigger. The pressure gets more intense. The manipulation gets more obvious. Because why wouldn't they? You've proven repeatedly that it works. You're a resource they can extract value from with minimal resistance. But here's what makes this really insidious. Once one predator identifies you as weak, others will too. Because predators often run in packs. Or at minimum, they talk to each other. Person A exploits your weakness successfully and mentions it to person B. Maybe not explicitly. Maybe just a casual comment like, oh, just push a little and they'll cave, or they can't handle conflict, so they'll agree if you pressure them enough. Now person B knows your weakness too, and they'll test it. And if you show weakness to them, now two people have you marked. And it spreads from there. Machiavelli observed that once a leader showed weakness to one faction, every other faction immediately tested them. Because weakness is like a crack in a dam. Once it appears, pressure naturally flows toward it. And if the crack isn't immediately repaired with a show of overwhelming strength, it widens until the whole structure collapses. Your reputation is that dam. Show one crack, and everyone starts pressing on it until you break completely. This is why recovery from showing weakness is so difficult. It's not enough to stop showing weakness. You have to actively demonstrate strength to counteract the weakness they've already seen. And you have to do it consistently, over time, with everyone who saw the weakness. This is exhausting and difficult, which is why prevention is so much better than cure. Never show weakness in the first place, and you never have to do the hard work of rebuilding a reputation for strength. Now let me show you what's happening in your life right now because of weakness you've already shown. Think about the people who constantly ask you for things. The ones who always need help, always need favors, always need your time or energy. Why do they come to you specifically? Because at some point, you showed them that asking works. You said yes when you should have said no. You helped when you didn't want to. You gave when you couldn't afford to. And they filed that information away. Now you're on their list of people they can extract resources from. Think about the people who disrespect you regularly, who cross your boundaries, who dismiss your opinions, who treat you as less important than them. Why do they feel comfortable doing this? Because you've shown them through your lack of response that disrespecting you has no consequences. They tested your boundaries, you didn't enforce them, and now they know they can violate those boundaries freely. Your weakness in defending yourself taught them that you're safe to disrespect. Think about the people who manipulate you, who guilt-trip you, who play on your emotions, who use your good nature against you. How did they learn these tactics work on you? Because you responded to them. You fell for the guilt trip. You changed your behavior when they played on your emotions. You let your good nature be weaponized. And every time their manipulation worked, they learned to do it more. Your weakness to manipulation trained them to be better manipulators of you specifically. This is the trap most people are in. They've shown weakness so many times to so many people that they're surrounded by predators. Their entire social circle consists of people who have identified them as targets. And they wonder why their life is so full of conflict, drama, and feeling used. It's because they've trained everyone around them that there's someone who can be exploited. The predators stay because the hunting is good. The non-predators leave because they don't want to be around someone who allows themselves to be preyed upon constantly. Here's what you need to understand about changing this pattern. You can't just stop showing weakness and expect everything to immediately improve. The people who have already identified you as weak will escalate first. They'll push harder to try to get the response they're used to getting from you. They'll test whether your new strength is real or just temporary. This is why most people fail when they try to stop showing weakness. They can't handle the initial escalation. Someone pushes harder, and they fold, proving that the new strength was fake. And now they're marked as even weaker than before because they tried to be strong and failed. If you're going to stop showing weakness, you have to commit completely. You have to be prepared for the escalation. You have to be ready to enforce consequences when people test you. You have to accept that some relationships will end because they were built entirely on your weakness. The people who only valued you because you were easy to exploit will leave when you become difficult to exploit. Let them go. They were never really there for you anyway. Drop this affirmation in the comments. I show strength even when tested. Because the next truth is going to give you the complete framework for eliminating weakness from your life and how to project unbreakable strength even in your most vulnerable moments. The fourth brutal truth is that strength is a performance you must maintain constantly. You don't get to be strong when you feel like it and weak when you're tired or stressed. You don't get to show vulnerability to some people and strength to others. Everyone talks. Every moment you're being observed and evaluated. Strength must be your default state, your automatic response, your consistent presentation. Let me show you exactly how to make this happen. First, understand that strength isn't about never feeling weakness internally. You're human. You'll have moments of doubt, fear, uncertainty, exhaustion. You'll have times when you want to break down, when you want to quit, when you feel overwhelmed. This is normal. The difference between strong people and weak people isn't that strong people don't feel these things. It's that strong people don't broadcast them. They feel the weakness internally but project strength externally. This is the performance aspect of strength. Think of it like this. An actor on stage might be having the worst day of their life. Personal problems, health issues, emotional turmoil. But when they step on stage, they perform. They deliver their lines with conviction. They embody their character. The audience has no idea what's happening internally because the external performance is flawless. This is what you need to do with strength. Regardless of what you're feeling internally, your external presentation must be consistently strong. Now let me give you the framework for maintaining this performance of strength in every situation. First, control your physical presentation. Your body language, your facial expressions, your tone of voice, these communicate strength or weakness before you say a single word. Strong body language means standing tall, shoulders back, maintaining eye contact, moving deliberately rather than nervously. It means keeping your face neutral or slightly confident rather than showing every emotion you feel. It means speaking in a steady, calm tone regardless of internal emotion. Practice this in front of a mirror. Say challenging things while maintaining strong body language. No, I won't be doing that. That doesn't work for me. I've made my decision. Say them while standing tall, maintaining steady eye contact with yourself in the mirror, keeping your tone firm and calm. This might feel fake at first. That's okay. You're building a skill. The more you practice, the more natural it becomes. Eventually, strong body language becomes your default regardless of what you're feeling internally. Second, control your verbal presentation. Strong people speak decisively. They don't use qualifying language like maybe, I think, kind of, sort of. They don't end statements with question marks, turning declarations into requests for approval. They don't over-explain or justify. They state things clearly and then stop talking. Practice removing weak language from your speech. Instead of, I kind of think we should maybe do it this way, say we're doing it this way. Notice the difference. One invites challenge and negotiation. The other states a decision. Third, control your emotional presentation. This is the hardest part for most people. Something upsets you, threatens you, disappoints you, and your instinct is to show that emotion. To let people know you're hurt or angry or scared. But every emotional display is information your opponents can use. They learn what affects you, what gets under your skin, what makes you reactive. Strong people feel emotions but process them privately. They maintain composure publicly regardless of internal turmoil. This doesn't mean being emotionless. It means being strategic about emotional display. You can show positive emotions selectively with people you trust. You can show anger strategically when you want to demonstrate that a boundary has been crossed. But you never show fear, hurt, or vulnerability to people who might use it against you. And in professional or adversarial contexts, you maintain near-complete emotional control at all times. Fourth, develop your stress response protocols. Weakness often shows up most clearly under stress or pressure. When something unexpected happens, when you're challenged aggressively, when circumstances turn against you. These are the moments that reveal character. Weak people panic, react emotionally, and make decisions from fear. Strong people have protocols. They've thought through in advance how they'll respond to various scenarios. For example, what do you do when someone disrespects you publicly? If you haven't thought about this in advance, you'll probably show weakness. You might freeze, apologize, laugh it off, or react emotionally. But if you've planned your response protocol, you can execute it smoothly. Maybe your protocol is to address it immediately with, "That's not acceptable," and then continue as if the interruption never happened. Maybe it's to make a mental note and address it privately later while showing no reaction publicly. The specific protocol matters less than having one. Having a predetermined response prevents you from defaulting to weakness under pressure. Fifth, surround yourself with strength. The people you spend time with affect how you present yourself. If you're surrounded by weak people, people who complain, who show vulnerability constantly, who accept disrespect, their weakness becomes normalized. You start thinking that's just how people are. But if you surround yourself with strong people, people who maintain boundaries, who handle challenges without breaking, who command respect, their strength becomes your baseline. You elevate to match your environment. This doesn't mean abandoning everyone who shows any weakness. It means being selective about who you spend significant time with. Weak people will drag you down to their level. Strong people will pull you up to theirs. Choose accordingly. And when you must interact with weak people, be especially vigilant about not adopting their patterns. Don't let their weakness infect your presentation. Sixth, practice strength in low-stakes situations. Don't wait until it's a high-pressure moment to try to show strength. Build the habit in everyday interactions. Someone cuts in line in front of you. Practice strong response. "Excuse me, the line is back there." Someone interrupts you. Practice strong response. Hold up your hand in a stop gesture and continue speaking without acknowledgement. Someone asks an invasive question. Practice strong response. "I don't discuss that," without explanation or apology. These small moments are your training ground. Every time you successfully show strength in a minor situation, you're reinforcing the habit. You're building the neural pathways that make strong responses automatic. Then when the high-stakes moment comes, you don't have to think about it. Your default response is strength because you've practiced it hundreds of times in smaller situations. Seventh, document your weak moments privately and analyze them. At the end of each day, think back. Were there moments when you showed weakness? When you apologized unnecessarily, over-explained, backed down from conflict, showed emotional reactivity, or otherwise broadcast vulnerability? Write these moments down, not to beat yourself up, but to identify patterns. Where are you most likely to show weakness? What triggers it? What alternative response could you have used? This analysis helps you prepare better responses for next time. Maybe you notice you always show weakness to a specific person. Now you know to be especially vigilant in interactions with them. Maybe you notice you show weakness when tired or stressed. Now you know to be extra careful about maintaining your presentation in those states. Maybe you notice certain topics or situations trigger weakness. Now you can prepare protocols for handling them. Eighth, understand that this is exhausting at first. Maintaining constant strength when you're not used to it requires tremendous mental energy. You're fighting your natural reactions. You're performing when you want to just be authentic. This is why most people give up. The effort feels too great. But like any skill, it gets easier with practice. What takes enormous effort in week 1 becomes automatic by month 3. What feels like a performance eventually becomes who you actually are. Machiavelli observed that successful leaders made strength look effortless because they'd practiced it so extensively. They weren't naturally stronger or braver than others. They just trained themselves so thoroughly in the performance of strength that it became second nature. This is available to you too. But you have to commit to the training period. You have to accept that it's going to be hard before it gets easy. Drop this affirmation in the comments. Strength is my permanent state. Because the final truth brings everything together and shows you exactly what your life becomes when you successfully eliminate weakness, and why this transformation is worth every bit of effort it requires. Let's talk about what actually happens when you successfully stop showing weakness. When you've trained yourself to project strength constantly, when you've eliminated weakness signals from your behavior, when you've built a reputation for being unbreakable. This isn't theoretical. This is what actually happens in your life, and it's more transformative than you can imagine. First, the predators disappear. The people who were constantly testing you, manipulating you, using you, they simply stop. Not because they suddenly became good people, but because you're no longer worth the effort. Predators are opportunistic. They go after easy targets. When you stop being an easy target, when showing strength becomes your default, they move on to find weakness elsewhere. They don't hate you for it. They don't even think about it much. You've just become unprofitable to exploit, so they redirect their energy to easier prey. This feels like magic when it first happens. People who used to pressure you constantly just stop asking. People who used to guilt trip you stop trying. People who used to violate your boundaries start respecting them automatically. You didn't have to have big confrontations with each of them. You didn't have to explain or justify. You just consistently showed strength, and they naturally backed off. This is the power of reputation. Once you're known as someone who doesn't break, most people don't even try to break you. Second, respect becomes automatic. People who never respected you before suddenly treat you differently. They ask permission instead of assuming. They check before crossing boundaries instead of just crossing them. They accept your decisions instead of arguing. Again, this happens without big announcements or confrontations. Your consistent strength simply commands respect. People can feel that you're someone who enforces boundaries, who stands their ground, who doesn't accept disrespect. So they naturally treat you with more care. This respect manifests in subtle ways at first. People listen when you speak instead of interrupting. They consider your opinion instead of dismissing it. They think twice before asking you for things. They're more careful about your time. Small changes that compound into a completely different experience of life. You're no longer fighting for basic respect. It's simply given because your strength has made it the path of least resistance. Third, your relationships transform completely. Some relationships end, and that's good. These were the relationships built entirely on your weakness. The people who only valued you because you were easy to exploit. When you stop being easy to exploit, they have no reason to stick around. Let them go without guilt. You weren't losing real relationships. You were filtering out parasitic ones. The relationships that remain become dramatically better. The people who stay are people who can relate to you as an equal, who respect your boundaries, who value you for who you are, not for what they can take from you. These remaining relationships are deeper and more genuine because they're not built on your weakness. There's mutual respect, actual reciprocity, real appreciation. You're not constantly resentful because you're not constantly being used. They're not resentful because you're not being weak and making them feel like they have to handle you with kid gloves. It's a clean, straightforward dynamic between two strong people who choose to be in each other's lives. Fourth, opportunities start appearing. This seems counterintuitive, but showing strength consistently opens doors. People want to work with strong people. They want to invest in strong people. They want to associate with strong people. When you project weakness, even successful people avoid you because they don't want to be dragged down. But when you project strength, successful people are drawn to you. They see you as someone who won't be a liability, someone who can handle pressure, someone who will make them look good by association. This manifests as job opportunities, business partnerships, social invitations, mentorship offers, all sorts of doors opening that were closed when you showed weakness. Because people making these offers want to minimize risk. Weak people are risky. They might break under pressure. They might create drama. They might require constant management. Strong people are safe bets. They handle their business. They solve problems instead of creating them. They make everyone around them more effective simply by being solid and reliable. Fifth, your self-respect skyrockets. This might be the most important transformation of all. When you stop showing weakness, when you consistently stand up for yourself, when you maintain boundaries even when it's difficult, you develop genuine respect for yourself. Not the fake confidence that requires constant external validation. Real, deep, unshakable self-respect that comes from knowing you can trust yourself to stay strong. This internal transformation affects everything. You make better decisions because you trust your judgment. You handle setbacks better because you know you can handle difficulty. You're less anxious because you're not constantly worried about what others think. You sleep better because you're not lying awake thinking about all the times you showed weakness and let people walk over you. Your life simply becomes more peaceful because you're living in alignment with your own strength. Sixth, you develop the ability to choose your battles. Paradoxically, when you're capable of showing strength in every moment, you gain the freedom to sometimes choose not to. Because you know you could stand strong if needed, you can strategically let small things go without it being a weakness signal. Weak people can't do this. Every battle feels like a test they might fail, so they either fight everything defensively or avoid everything out of fear. Strong people can evaluate each situation and consciously choose whether engaging is worth it. They're operating from choice, not from fear. This strategic flexibility is incredibly powerful. You can be strong when strength is needed and gracious when grace is more effective. You can stand firm when boundaries are important and be accommodating when it doesn't cost you anything meaningful. You're not trapped in rigid patterns of always proving your strength. You simply are strong, so you can express that strength in whatever form serves you best. Seventh, you become a force that shapes your environment rather than being shaped by it. Weak people are reactive. They respond to whatever happens to them. Whatever energy others bring, they match or are overwhelmed by. They're constantly adapting to their circumstances. Strong people are proactive. They set the tone. They determine the dynamic. They shape circumstances to fit their preferences. This is real power. Not power over others necessarily, but power over your own life and how you experience it. Machiavelli's final insight on this is profound. He noted that truly strong leaders created their own reality. They didn't accept the world as they found it. They shaped it through sheer force of will and consistent strength. Everyone else had to adapt to the reality the strong person created. This is available to you in your own life. Not creating reality for the whole world, but creating your own personal reality through consistent strength. People adapt to you rather than you adapting to them. Your standards become the standard. Your boundaries become respected. Your strength becomes the organizing principle around which your relationships and circumstances arrange themselves. Here's the commitment you need to make right now. From this moment forward, you will not show weakness. Not even for a second. Not when you're tired. Not when you're stressed. Not when you're hurt. Not when you're scared. You will feel these things internally, but externally you will project unshakable strength. This isn't being fake. This is choosing who you want to be and committing to that choice regardless of how you feel moment to moment. This commitment will be tested immediately. Someone will push your boundaries. Someone will try to make you show weakness. Someone will apply pressure to see if you break. These tests are good. They're opportunities to reinforce your new identity. Every test you pass makes you stronger. Every moment you maintain strength despite internal difficulty builds your capacity for strength. Over time, what started as a performance becomes reality. You're not performing strength anymore. You are strong. The world is full of people showing weakness constantly and wondering why they're surrounded by predators. Why they're always being used. Why nobody respects them. Why their lives are full of conflict and difficulty. You don't have to be one of them. You can be someone who shows strength in every moment, who maintains boundaries, who commands respect, who shapes their own reality. But you have to choose it. And you have to choose it every single day, in every single moment. Remember what you affirmed in the comments. I show strength in every moment. I eliminate all weakness signals. I show strength even when tested. Strength is my permanent state. These aren't just words. These are the principles that will transform your life if you actually live them. If this video showed you why showing weakness destroys your life and exactly how to stop doing it, hit that like button. If you want more content about Machiavellian strength, psychological dominance, and becoming truly powerful, subscribe and turn on notifications. Drop a comment telling me one area where you're going to stop showing weakness starting today. The transformation starts now. Stop showing weakness, even for a second, or stay prey forever. The choice is yours.